There's a lot of content out there, and it's hard to know what is worth your time and attention. And for my 2 cents, I'm just going to put it out there. The Penguin was worth it. I was shocked, surprised, blown away by the fact that something good is coming out of the system. Following the events of the Batman 2022, Oz Cobb, aka the Penguin, makes a play to seize the reins of the crime world in Gotham. The Batman was, of course, directed by Matt Reeves and was pretty well received by both critics and the audience. The Penguin is actually not directed by or written by or created by Matt Reeves, though as far as I can tell, he has an executive producer credit, which usually means they invest money, but don't have much of an input when it comes to the day-to-day decisions on production. So the actual creator is Lauren LaFranc. I know almost nothing about her. She did some TV, mostly TV or all TV, as far as I can tell. Something called Impulse. She was on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., did some writing there, did Hemlock Grove, Chuck, and My Own Worst Enemy. Now, all these are there's some strong ratings across the board for what she's done. And the director, like I said, of the episode is not Matt Reeves, the director of The Batman, but it is Craig Zobel, who did Compliance, which I don't think that I've seen. He did Z for Zachariah, which I have seen, didn't enjoy very much, and The Hunt, which I haven't seen. But all of that said, and all the people who happen to be involved in this particular piece of work, I think it turned out pretty damn well. So, of course, it is starring Colin Farrell as the Penguin, one of the least interesting villains in the history of villainy, unless I'm sure you read the comic books. But when it comes to the movies, it's a really weird villain. He's just kind of oddly shaped and is an apparent crime boss, as opposed to other villains like the Joker or the Riddler or others that have some kind of a gimmick or power that makes some sense. For the Penguin, he's just a guy. Just an odd-looking guy, and so going into the show, I just watched it on a lark. I didn't hear from anybody that they liked it or anything like that. I didn't see any reviews. I just thought it's HBO, so maybe. And already, first things first, I absolutely love the makeup on Colin Farrell. I think it looks perfect. I think there's some kind of a balance that they got. They didn't go too extreme or anything like that, but he looks just right for this kind of a character. He's just enjoyable to watch. Pretty much every moment that he's on screen, I enjoy watching him act. Oh, also turns out that Colin Farrell is an executive producer as well, so you might have a bit of a Deadpool effect, where you have the main actor who's also involved directly in production, or not directly, he's at least involved as an executive producer, because he really believes in the character and really just enjoys the character, and that's why it comes across so much in the performance. So I'll give you the setup of the story without any spoilers. Like I said, I generally don't watch any trailers. I don't look up anything about a movie or a TV show ahead of time because I like to go in blind. I don't like to solely the way that I'm going to engage with this piece of artwork because I've already seen half of what happens in the thing or gotten the entire story structure or know the tone or anything else. So if I know it's by somebody who I appreciate, then I'll go into it. And then sometimes I'll just go into something for the hell of it and just see what happens. So I had no idea. I had no idea what the story was. I just knew of the character. I didn't know what other characters would be in there, how it was going to set up this episode or the show or anything else. And by the way, this is supposed to be apparently a limited series as opposed to a whole full-fledged TV show, which is kind of sad, but also kind of could be good. But we'll have to see long term how that shakes out. So the setup is you've got the Penguin and it's supposed to be after the Batman, so you've got the crime leader Carmine Falcone, who has died, and he has a son, so his son is the apparent heir to the throne here. He's supposed to take over the crime world, and then the legacy carries on, and we see what happens in Gotham and how the Penguin is going to be fit into this. And then you have other characters that are related to and opposed to the Falcone crime family, and the Penguin is somewhere in between trying to figure out where his place is relative to all these people. But he's not just some passive experiencer of the things that are going on, which is one of the excellent things about the writing. Again, the writing's by Lauren LeBlanc. Was that who it was? Lauren LaFranc. So he's not just passive within this world, he is actively trying to establish things and accomplish things, and that makes it for a much more interesting and dynamic storyline. There are characters that show up that aren't just cameo characters that, oh, that's where that character got started, which I appreciate so much, that you just have characters that to show up, and you don't know how they're going to play a role or if they're going to play a role. And then you go on from there and just see the things unfold. That's a great way to do it. It's also got one of the actresses I've seen before for sure, Cristin Milioti. And I'm trying to limit any kind of spoilers because I went into this, like I said, knowing absolutely nothing. And it was great that way because things would just pop up and I'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's great. She's not, Palm Springs and The Wolf of Wall Street. She had a small role in The Wolf of Wall Street, wasn't it? But I remember her from that, and she was in Palm Springs, the movie opposite of the island guy. Anyway, so she has a role in the show. Again, I don't want to give anything away, but you have the Penguin, who is played by Colin Farrell expertly. I think he really embodies this character extremely well. And seeing in the Batman, not even knowing that it was him all the way through the entire thing, and then getting to see him in this, I was very surprised how engaging and interesting it was. And the dialogue, the writing of the dialogue, and the scenes, this was the number one thing that I was appreciative of that worked really well relative to everything else that has been coming out nowadays, is that they took their time. They took their time in a scene. It wasn't just like, we have to have flashing lights to keep everybody interested, let's have a gunfight or something. They took their time in a scene to establish things, which I loved so much to be able to just sit down and watch that. And the dialogue was complex enough with enough subtext and enough psychological implications. Like you see the way that when two characters are interacting, you see the way their psychology is informing what they're talking about and what's interesting to them and what's important to them. It's not anything like, it's not The Sopranos. But it is complex. It's complex enough that you are interested in all the characters and you are enjoying just following the Penguin doing these things. I am absolutely now looking forward to the next episode of the show. It could go completely downhill. And I don't know how anybody else feels about the show, but for me, it just really, really, really worked. I thought it looked great too. There were some aspects of the character that made sense, that were meaningful. And I wouldn't say iconic at this point, but they were things that stood out about the character that were fun things to see and fun things to be associated with that character. So beginning to end of the episode, I think all the way through, I was totally engaged and interested and looking forward to seeing what was going to happen next. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen next. And the supporting performances were great. There were some aspects of Cristin Milioti's performance, without giving too much away, that I thought maybe she was going to slip into being over the top. But I think she handled it pretty well. The core of it, though, is honestly just watching Colin Farrell as the Penguin. Like, seriously, I feel like I could watch him be that character for hours and hours and hours. There's something just really interesting and enjoyable about his character, period. And this is a funny thing because there are not very many good things coming out of this era and this genre. So when it comes to the superhero genre, there aren't that many great things coming out. There was the exception of that Spider-Man movie, but even that was pretty limited. It was a lot of nostalgia and a little bit of good storytelling and acting, but a lot of it was just the fact that they were able to weave in a story that was going to build that into it, because it didn't really have all that much import apart from being able to put all that nostalgia together when it comes to storytelling or character perspective. And then when it comes to DC Universe, obviously there's been a whole bunch of trash, which has been very frustrating, mixed in with a couple of very good entries. And then you have this one, you just have no idea whether the quality is going to be up there or not. I think the quality hits. I think it does a very good job of balancing a new story with an existing IP, and number one, it does not go off the deep end when it comes to injecting things to try to make you interested, based on nostalgia or based on things that you recognize. It doesn't try to do that. It's just trying to tell a good story, and it happens to be in this world that seems like a legitimate world at this point. And there were some just really pretty shots, the way that a lot of the set design was and the way a lot of things were framed. They were very memorable. I can still picture them very vividly, how they looked. And I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. So The Penguin, I believe they're going to have a new episode every Sunday from here on. Episode 1 is out now. It actually came out yesterday. Yeah, yesterday the 19th. And I am going to go ahead and recommend this damn thing and suggest that if you are interested in TV and storytelling, not just if you're interested in Batman and characters related to Batman, but if you just like good storytelling, good writing, something that has the ability to actually engage and be engaging, then check it out. Watch the first episode, see if you like it, and then we'll be back for future episodes, which I will, now that I've tried to hook people into it with the first episode, for further episodes, I'll warn you that I'm going to spoil it, but I think I'll go specifically into detail about the episodes. I just want more people watching it so we can talk about it. So that's the goal, okay? So I'm just advocating the passive consumption of The Penguin episode 1 so we can talk about it later and see how much we can get out of it. Anyway, yeah, so that is The Penguin. I appreciate it. I hope all is well, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.